Joining us now, former acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf. Chad, good to see you. So let's talk about processing centers south of the U.S. border. This is not really about stemming the flow of migrants to the southern border. This is really about managing the perception so the media can't see the stockpile of people trying to come into our country, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly right. And it's a fundamental flaw of the Biden administration's approach, and it has been over the last 26 to 27 months, right? They don't want to actually solve the crisis and solve the problem. And the problem is the illegal behavior and the illegal crossings along that southern border. Instead, they want to put measures in place that are simply going to facilitate and process those migrants in a quicker fashion so that they don't have images of 10,000 migrants under a bridge in Del Rio. That's a problem for this administration, and so they're going to do everything but solve the problem and simply facilitate the flow of illegal migrants into the country quicker and quicker, and it's what their strategy has been designed to do over these past 2 years.
Chad, you already have the mayor of New York City, not exactly a border community, saying that Biden's migrant crisis has destroyed New York City. And there are already, with the Title 42 coming to an end, there are smugglers advertising their services across Mexico.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when's the last time that you saw a New York mayor go to El Paso, to actually go to the southern border? And he's only there for one reason, which he's trying to understand the crisis and why the Biden administration won't actually try to solve it. And that's why he was there in El Paso. But look, you've got the end of Title 42 coming up on May 11th. The administration doesn't really have a plan in place for the influx. We're going to see another surge of migrants across that border that are already straining communities along that southwest border and basically communities all over the country. And again, there's no strategy, there's no leverage, there's no big agreement with the government of Mexico to figure out what's going on and to solve the problem. They've been at this for 2 years. They have a failed strategy, and I think the American people are tired of it, and they're tired of them doubling down on a failed strategy. They're tired of being told lies, and they don't want the secretary to tell them the border is secure any longer. They just want the problem fixed.
Chad, I mean, I think it's fair to say it's a failed strategy because you're a good person who would actually say, I'm an American, I want to secure the border. But I actually think this is the strategy. They're intentionally opening the border, incentivizing people to come up and through it into the country. And I think the million-dollar question is, why? What is the purpose behind opening our border and letting all kinds of people come in, not well vetted, to take jobs from Americans and especially low-income jobs from Americans? That doesn't make any sense to me. Do you have an answer on why they would do this?
Well, look, it's a good question. And at the end of the day, only really the Biden administration is going to be able to answer that. But look, what I know is that they are beholden to obviously the left wing of their party. And these immigration activists and these true believers, they don't believe in borders. And when we say that, it's not just a throwaway line to say, oh, they're open borders. They actually believe that anyone who crosses that border legally or illegally has a right to stay in the United States. And that's simply not U.S. law. They know that. They want to change the law, which is why they have a number of bills that have been introduced to change the law. And they don't believe it. But what they can't achieve by a change in law, they're going to achieve by policy. And that's what they've been doing for the past 2 years. And so, look, I think there's a number of reasons of why they're doing this. But at the end of the day, they don't believe in immigration enforcement. They've directed ICE, they've directed DHS officers and law enforcement not to actually enforce the law. They don't like enforcing immigration law. And they want to change the law, but they actually don't want to do the hard work and have Congress do it. Instead, they'd rather do it by policy memo.
There will never be any immigration reform passed out of Congress when the border is wide open. Chad, thank you so much. Chad Wolf.
Thank you.